Though it has been a little bit of time since the last time I did a baseball video, with the amount of coverage that we did provide on the Hall of Fame over the last couple of months, I thought it would be fitting on the day of the announcement to look at who got inducted as the official announcement just came down that Scott Rowland is the sole individual joining Fred McGriff as this year's Hall of Fame inductee. Scott Rowland played for 17 seasons, spending time with the Philadelphia Phillies, Cincinnati Reds, and St. Louis Cardinals. And unfortunately, I believe he actually won a World Series with the St. Louis Cardinals. I could be wrong, but Scott Rowland is, in my opinion, one of the more underrated infielders in baseball. And though I think that I may have underappreciated Scott Rowland, I also would like to point out that he also spent time with the Toronto Blue Jays. I knew there was another team. Yes, he actually won the World Series with the St. Louis Cardinals in 2006 and is a member of the St. Louis Cardinals Hall of Fame. But he also is a National League Rookie of the Year award winner, becoming the first Philadelphia Philly to win the award since Dick Allen in 1964, but back into more of a consistent way of doing things. Scott Rowland is one of those guys that, in my opinion, flew under the radar for me because I didn't really look at him as a prospective Hall of Famer. But after hearing JP Morosi speak on his ballot and why he voted for certain people, it was rewarding consistency. And yes, I do think that part of the reason why you're able to award consistency or reward consistency, where Scott Rowland was a consistent player, consistently at the top of his game, 7-time Gold Glove Award winner, uh, or a 6-time All Star, 7-time Gold Glove Award winner, and someone that deserves to be honored in the Hall of Fame because of his consistency. Or, sorry, 7-time All Star, 8-time Gold Glove Award winner, over 2,000 games played, consistently a great player at the top of his game, and somebody who, if you looked at third base during his height, if you looked at the third base position during his height, you would look at it and say, I want Scott Rowland. Because Scott Rowland will play every day and was a consistent presence at third base during the height of his career. And I think that if you wanted to say where, or if you wanted to ask the question where or with what hat Scott Rowland will be wearing on his plaque in July, you could ask the same question with Fred McGriff. I think that it is unquestionable that it will be a Philadelphia Phillies hat. But the reality of the situation is it could also be St. Louis Cardinals, because even though he may have had early success with the Phillies, he had his best success or greatest success with the Cardinals. So it's a question of, I think it's a question of choice. I think he still has the choice to be able to do it, but I think the Phillies may be where he picks. But if you ask who fell off the ballot and who came very, very close, this is according to Joel Sherman. Joel Sherman said that Scott Rowland got into the Hall of Fame by 5 votes, finishing with 76.3%, a little bit above the 75% marker. Todd Helton missed by 11 votes, finishing at 72%. Billy Wagner climbed up 51%, which is an incredible jump for Billy Wagner. And I think that I think that that will lead to Billy Wagner joining Todd Helton in the 2024 class for the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. Gary Sheffield and Andrew Jones finished with 55 and 58% respectively. And also, Jeff Kent and Carlos Beltran finished with 46%. I am extremely disappointed that Jeff Kent did not get more love because this was Jeff Kent's last year on the ballot. I am not surprised that Carlos Beltran did not get more love because, well, it's his first year on the ballot, and in my opinion, Beltran is a future Hall of Famer. With or without 2017, Beltran is a future Hall of Famer, but was not a first ballot Hall of Famer. Carlos Beltran is not a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion. As far as who fell off the ballot, Bronson Arroyo, R.A. Dickey, John Lackey, Mike Napoli, Houston Street, Matt Cain, Jacoby Ellsbury, Andre Ethier, J.J. Hardy, Johnny Peralta, Jared Weaver, and Jason Worth all fell off the ballot as far as finishing below 5%. That does mean that Francisco Rodriguez is one of the people that stayed on the ballot for next year, as did the likes of Mark Burley, Jimmy Rollins, and Bobby Abreu, Andy Pettit, etc. I know that some people view it as, well, maybe Todd Helton should have went in, maybe Billy Wagner should have went in, maybe this guy should have went in. Some people have the big Hall of Fame, the idea that the Hall of Fame is all-encompassing, and if you meet certain credentials, then you should be a Hall of Famer. Some people have the opposite, where they want a smaller Hall of Fame where not a lot of people get in, or barely anybody get in. That there were probably some people that would have been happy if only Fred McGriff was getting in, and nobody got announced for the official vote. Me, I prefer someone getting announced for the official vote, as opposed to nobody getting announced for the official vote. So even though before this year and before hearing JP's logic as to why he voted for certain people, and that changing my opinion on certain people, that I wouldn't have thought that Scott Rowland would have went in, and I would have thought that Todd Helton would have went in. I do think that there are some people, much like with Billy Wagner, there are critics that Billy was a closer, that Billy did not perform well in the postseason, that Todd Helton only had the numbers that he had because of Coors Field, that he was not a postseason player, yada, 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 yada. But in terms of what I prefer, someone getting in as opposed to nobody getting in, I would prefer somebody getting in as opposed to nobody getting in. Would I have preferred the 5 votes that were given to Scott Rowland given to Jeff Kent, to give Jeff Kent a little bit more love? Honestly, no, because unless that would have helped Jeff Kent get in, it wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered. But now I hope that Jeff Kent, the wrong that has been done to Jeff Kent about not getting into the Hall of Fame, and it looks like the same possibility is there for Gary Sheffield, who I believe will be entering his final season next year, that I hope that the Veterans Committee can undo this wrong of Jeff Kent not getting into the Hall of Fame. That's just me. But as far as Scott Rowland being the one that is alongside Fred McGriff entering the Hall of Fame in July, congratulations to both those two, as it is very much deserved for both Scott Rowland and Fred McGriff joining the Hallowed Halls of Cooperstown in July of 2023. In my opinion, I would probably put Scott Rowland as a Philadelphia Philly on his plaque, and Fred McGriff with the Toronto Blue Jays on his cap, as far as enshrining themselves into the Hallowed Halls of Cooperstown. My only question is, what happens next year? With that being said, I will see you in the next video. Once again, congratulations to Scott Rowland and Fred McGriff being this year's class for the MLB Hall of Fame.